So, welcome to our Mardi Gras week prospecting campaign. And yes, this may be the only commercial real estate training in the country that successfully combines NOI, cap rates, and decorative masks with feathers. But stay with me, because this actually matters. Mardi Gras is famous for one simple idea: it's the moment right before everything gets loud. And in commercial real estate, there's a moment like that every single year, and that moment is right now. Before the spring listings hit, before every owner suddenly decides that their building is worth 3 points tighter on cap rate because they read one optimistic headline on the internet. This training is about recognizing that quiet window and using it to start better conversations with owners before the market turns into a full parade. Because in CRE, the agents who win listings are rarely the loudest. They're the ones who show up earliest with clear intelligence and calm confidence, and also fewer beads, which is generally better for underwriting. So here's the core idea behind the entire campaign. Mardi Gras marks the shift from quiet winter to active spring. And in commercial real estate, that shift shows up in three very predictable ways. First, more listings hit the market, which sounds exciting until you realize those listings are now competing with your future listing. Second, more competition for buyers and tenants, because nothing says reduced negotiating leverage like 5 nearly identical multifamily properties all launching the same week. And third, late sellers lose leverage, not because their property is bad, but because timing has changed. And timing in commercial real estate quietly controls almost everything: price, terms, cap rate tension, and whether a deal feels competitive or ignored. So the message to owners is really simple and honestly a little comforting. Smart operators don't wait for the crowd. They position assets before the parade arrives. And our job as commercial agents is to help them see that window before everyone else does. Because once the parade starts, you're not leading it anymore. You're just trying not to get hit by flying beads. All right, now we get to day one of our campaign. And day one is beautifully simple. I should know, I wrote it. Because it starts with something revolutionary in commercial real estate. We actually sent an email. I know, bold strategy. But here's the key. This isn't just checking an email. Those usually translate to, hey, I haven't talked to you in 3 years, but I suddenly remembered you own a building. Instead, this email uses a very specific angle. Quiet market leads to a strategic window. Because right now, before spring inventory shows up, we have something incredibly valuable in CRE: silence, less competition, focused capital, and owners who are still calm enough to make rational decisions, which, as we know, is a seasonal condition. Now, subject lines of this email, notice the subject lines here. They're not hypey, they're not salesy, and they definitely don't say off-market deal, must read immediately. Because that's the fastest way to get archived by someone who owns a $12 million shopping center and also self-identifies as a serious adult. Instead, the tone is calm, intelligent, and slightly intriguing. Before the spring CRE rush begins, that's one of our headlines. Or a quick thought before the market gets loud. Mardi Gras timing for commercial owners. I think we'll probably get more of them opened. These sound like they came from an advisor, not somebody chasing a commission check before lunch. And that distinction is where listings actually come from. Now, look at the message focus. We're not pitching a sale. We're not pushing urgency. We're not saying now is the perfect time to sell. Because in commercial real estate, owners can smell desperation faster than a lender smells weak debt service coverage ratios. Instead, we do three calm, intelligent things. We acknowledge the spring inventory surge is coming. That's just reality, no drama required. We explain that early sellers attract serious capital, which is true, and it sounds smart because it is smart. And then we offer a complimentary asset positioning review. Not a pitch, not a presentation, just intelligence. And intelligence is the one thing commercial owners never get tired of receiving. And finally, the CTA, the call to action. Now, this is my favorite part. We don't ask for a meeting. We don't ask for a listing. We don't ask for their firstborn child and a trailing 12-month of financials. We simply say reply NOI, that's it, one word. Low friction, easy to do from an iPhone or Droid while pretending to listen in on another meeting. And what do they get? They get a confidential value and strategy snapshot. Not pressure, not persuasion, just clarity, which is exactly how serious commercial relationships begin. And yes, in residential real estate, Mardi Gras might involve king cake, but in commercial real estate, dessert has been replaced by spreadsheets. And honestly, that's how you know you've matured as an industry. So here's an example of the email that we might use. Good morning. Mardi Gras is known for being the moment right before everything gets busy. And in commercial real estate, we're approaching a similar shift. Each spring, more inventory enters the market, more owners test pricing, and competition for buyer attention increases. That doesn't make spring a bad time to sell, but it does mean the quiet window we're in now can be strategically valuable. Historically, owners who position assets before the spring surge often benefit from more focused, serious capital in the market, less competing inventory, stronger negotiating leverage on price and terms. Of course, every property and every ownership strategy is different. Sometimes the right move is to sell. Sometimes it's to refinance, reposition, or simply hold with better information. And that's why I'm offering a complimentary, confidential asset positioning review for a small group of owners this month. It's a straightforward look at current value, buyer demand, and timing considerations. No pressure and no obligation. If that would be helpful, just reply NOI, and I'll prepare a private value and strategy snapshot for you. Clear information now can make much smarter decisions later, and the only beads involved will be the ones accountants use when modeling depreciation. Now, we can have a lot of fun with this, but the idea is to try and do something different than what everybody else does, right? We've also created a very similar social media post to accompany the initial email. Same layout, same things. I'm offering a confidential value and timing snapshot this month. Just message me NOI and I'll prepare it for you. Now, I do have an example image that we might use for this on Facebook, on LinkedIn, anywhere you might post something. And by the way, I do point out often that LinkedIn is a place where everybody goes, but Facebook is also a place where everybody lives. So please keep that in mind and make sure you're sharing everywhere that people actually are. But this lays out exactly what we're looking for, and you can include this in an email, and you can definitely post it online and have that social media post accompany it as well. Now, that's day one. We move on to day two of the campaign, and day two lives in a place where many commercial agents visit, but very few actually work, and that's LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn in commercial real estate is fascinating. Everybody's there. Everybody's connected. Everybody's posting articles about the future of office space, and somehow no one's actually asking for listings. So day two fixes that, but in a way that still feels intelligent, calm, and professional. Now, the core theme here is capital moves before the parade starts. Now, that line matters because commercial real estate owners don't respond to hype. They respond to capital behavior. And the truth is, institutional money, 1031 exchange buyers, private investors, they don't wait for headlines. They move early, quietly, and strategically, usually before the rest of the market realizes what's happening. Which means the story we're telling is the real story. That smart money is already in motion, and timing right now still affects leverage. Now, what these posts do not do, notice that what this LinkedIn post doesn't do. It doesn't say, again, great time to sell, call me now. Because if you post that on LinkedIn, three things are going to happen. First, no serious owner will respond. Second, your competitors will secretly screenshot it and use it against you for the next 3 years. And third, a life coach will like it and comment, love this energy. And none of that produces a listing. What the post actually does is something much more powerful. It educates without pitching. It signals expertise without ego, and it positions you as someone who understands capital timing and inventory cycles and negotiating leverage. In other words, you look like an advisor to investors, not just a broker with a Canva subscription. And in commercial real estate, that difference is worth millions. Now let's talk about the call to action. Because again, we keep friction very low. We don't ask for a meeting. We don't push for a listing presentation. We don't say, do you have time Thursday at 2:15? We simply say, DM me parade. That's it. Short, private, easy. And most importantly, safe for an owner to do without commitment. And when the owner sends a one-word message, what they're really saying is, I'm not ready to talk, but I am ready to listen. And in CRE prospecting, that's the moment everything begins. So day two isn't about going viral. It's not about likes. It's not about comments from your cousin who sells residential real estate in Arizona. Day two is something much quieter, much more profitable. Starting intelligent conversations with serious commercial owners before the market gets loud. Because once again, once that parade starts, you're not guiding capital anymore. You're just another person trying to shout over the marching band. Now, here's the example of the post itself. Capital moves before the parade starts. In commercial real estate, the biggest moves rarely happen when the market's loudest. They happen just before everyone else arrives. Right now, many institutional and 1031 buyers are already active, quietly placing capital ahead of the spring surge. As late spring approaches, more inventory enters the market. Competition increases and negotiating leverage can begin to shift. And that's why timing matters more than most owners realize. It can influence cap rate, pricing tension, and overall deal structure. So if you own office, retail, industrial, multifamily, or hospitality, and you're considering a move in the next 12 to 24 months, I'm happy to provide a discrete pricing opinion and timing insight. Just DM me Parade, and I'll prepare it for you. No pressure, just clear market intelligence. And here is an example of the graphic that I put together for this one. Again, we have the write-up of it, and we've got a graphic. Now, you might want to change this to some other graphic that's just an image. That's fine, too. What I'm trying to get across, those is headline, because headline is 85% of the message, and that's capital moves before the parade starts. Now, we got 2 days gone. We arrive at day 3, and this is where the campaign quietly shifts from marketing to actual business. Because sooner or later in commercial real estate, we all have to face that terrifying moment when we actually have to contact the owner. No filters, no graphics, no inspirational quote about success, although I do love those. Just a real conversation with someone who owns something expensive. So why direct outreach matters? Here's the truth most agents learn the slow way. Commercial listings rarely come from posts. They come from relationships. And relationships don't start with just listed emails. They start with, I was thinking about your property. And that single shift in language changes everything. Because now you're not a salesperson, you're an advisor paying attention. And owners can feel that difference immediately. Notice the tone of the outreach in day 3. It's short, professional, respectful of their time, and completely free of desperation. We're not saying, are you ready to sell? Because nothing makes a sophisticated investor avoid your number faster than urgency without context. So instead, we say something calm and intelligent. You're reviewing assets ahead of the spring cycle, and you're offering a confidential value and timing analysis, if it would be useful. That's it. No pressure, no pitch deck, just relevance. Now, why this works? It's powerful. It's a powerful approach. Most owners are not yet ready to sell today, but many of them are quietly thinking, maybe next year, maybe after a lease rollover, maybe after refinancing, maybe after one more rent increase, or after the universe gives me a sign. Your message meets them in that quiet thinking stage, which is where nearly every major CRA decision actually begins. So instead of chasing listings, you're arriving early in the owner's decision timeline. And in commercial real estate, early is everything. So once again, the call to action stays simple. Reply NOI, one word, private, easy to ignore, but surprisingly hard to forget. Because even if they don't reply today, they now know you. You're watching the market, you're thinking strategically, and you're someone they should call before making a big decision. And that is how commercial pipelines are actually built. Not loudly, not quickly, but quietly and very profitably. So day 3 is where the campaign becomes real, because marketing starts conversations, but direct outreach starts relationships. And in commercial real estate, relationships are still the asset class with the highest long-term return, even better than industrial in 2021, which, by the way, was a pretty good run. Now we reach day 4, and this is where most commercial real estate agents get, well, a little uncomfortable. Because day 4 requires something radical. You have to be on video. I know for some people that's exciting. For others, it feels like being asked to perform open heart surgery using only a selfie camera and Wi-Fi. But here's the reality in today's CRE market. Authority is no longer assumed, it's demonstrated. And video is where that demonstration happens fastest. Why video matters in commercial real estate? Commercial owners are not looking for the loudest broker. They're looking for the one who sounds calm and informed and strategic, like me, and slightly less dramatic than the financial news in the morning. A short, thoughtful video does something almost nothing else can do. It lets an owner experience what it would feel like to have a real conversation with you before they ever call. And that reduces risk, which coincidentally is the entire business model of commercial real estate, isn't it? And notice that what this day 4 video is not. It's not a market rant. It's not a prediction about interest rates that will be wrong in 6 weeks, just like weather reports. And it's definitely not filmed from the driver's seat of your car with sunglasses on, reflecting your steering wheel. Instead, the message is simple and timeless. There is a quiet window before spring. Capital's already active. Leverage still exists, and smart owners look at options early. No hype, no urgency, just clarity. And clarity is incredibly persuasive to sophisticated investors. And here's a deeper truth about day 4. This video isn't really about marketing. It's about positioning. Because the moment an owner sees you calmly explaining the market without pressure, without theatrics, and without flashing limited time opportunity as a banner, you stop looking like a broker who wants a listing and start looking like an advisor who understands timing. And in commercial real estate, that perceptual shift is where biggest assignments begin. And just like the earlier days, the call to action stays quiet and intelligent. Message parade, no forms, no funnels, no book a discovery call language borrowed from a sales seminar in 2007. Just a simple private step that lets an owner raise their hand without announcing it to the world. Because serious owners value discretion almost as much as cash flow. So day 4 isn't about video. It's about this moment when the market is still quiet, but decisions are starting to form. And the agents who show up here with calm authority and clear thinking are the ones owners remember when the parade finally does arrive. And in CRE, being remembered at the right moment is worth far more than being loud at the wrong moment. So here is an example of a longer form of the same video. So let's say we do a 90-second instead of a 15-second. Hi, I'm Loren Keim with C21 Commercial. Mardi Gras is known as the moment right before everything gets busy, that last quiet window before the noise, the crowds, and the momentum of a new season. And in commercial real estate, there's a moment like that too, and we're in it right now. Each year as we begin moving towards spring, a predictable shift begins to happen. More owners bring properties to market. More listings compete for the same pool of capital, and negotiating leverage slowly starts to move away from sellers and toward buyers who suddenly have more choices. But here's what's interesting. Many of the strongest pricing outcomes and cleanest executions don't happen during the loudest part of the market. They happen just before it. Right now, institutional groups, private investors, and 1031 exchange buyers are already active, quietly placing capital ahead of the broader spring surge. So when an asset is positioned during this quieter window, it often benefits from less competing inventory, more focused buyer attention, stronger negotiating leverage on price and terms. Now, that doesn't mean every owner should sell today. Sometimes a smart move is to refinance, reposition, or simply hold. But the key strategic advantage is this: knowing your real options before the market gets loud. If you own office, retail, industrial, or multifamily, and you've considered sale, refinance, or repositioning sometime in the next 12 to 24 months, I'd be happy to prepare a confidential value and timing analysis for you. No pressure, no obligation, just clear market intelligence so you can make the right decision on your timeline, not the markets. Just send me a private message with the word parade, and I'll take care of the rest. I'm Loren Keim, and I help commercial owners make smart moves before the market gets loud. Does that sound a little different than a typical broker, typical agent? All right, day 5. And that might be the most old-fashioned, low-tech, and quietly powerful step in this entire campaign. Because on day 5, we pick up a tool rarely seen in modern commercial real estate. I'm going to call it a pen. And we write something even more rare, a handwritten note. Now, why does this matter so much? Think about the world your commercial owner lives in. Every day they receive hundreds of emails. They do. Absolutely, they get that. Dozens of marketing messages, automated newsletters they never subscribe to, and at least one broker promising record pricing in today's dynamic environment. Most of that disappears instantly, but a handwritten note, that gets opened, that gets read, and sometimes that gets kept because it signals something almost extinct in business today: intentional effort. An effort communicates value without saying a single persuasive word. Now here's the beautiful part. The note itself is extremely simple, not salesy, not clever, not trying to win a copywriting award, just calm, professional, and human. Thought of you as we approach the spring market. If reviewing the value of your or future positioning your property would be helpful this year, I'd be glad to prepare a confidential analysis. That's it. No pitch, no urgency, no dramatic closing line borrowed from a motivational podcast, just relevance. And relevance is what sophisticated owners respond to. But the real power of day 5 isn't the ink and it isn't the paper, it's the psychology. Because by this point in the campaign, hopefully the owner has seen your email, noticed your LinkedIn post, and possibly watched your video. And now they receive something physical, something personal, something quiet and unexpected. And this creates an internal shift. You're no longer just marketing to them, you're becoming familiar. And in commercial real estate, familiarity is the bridge between awareness and assignment. And here's the honest truth. Very few commercial agents will actually do day 5. Not because it's hard, but because it's simple. And simple actions done consistently are strangely rare in our industry. But the agents who do this are usually the same ones who mysteriously receive listing calls that came out of nowhere. Of course they didn't. They came from a quiet relationship work that no one else bothered to do. So day 5 is where the campaign slows down on purpose. Because while technology can start conversations, relationships are still built the old-fashioned way, one thoughtful moment at a time. And in our commercial industry, that kind of consistency isn't outdated, it's a competitive advantage. Even a world full of automation, AI, and emails that begin with just circling back. Now we reach day 6, and this is where the campaign does something subtle but incredibly powerful. Instead of asking for business, we start to teach. And in commercial real estate, the agent who teaches the market is usually the one who eventually leads it. So why education changes everything? Think about how most brokers market. They announce listings, they promote closings, they celebrate their wins and their deals, and that's fine. But none of that actually helps an owner make a decision, but education does. Because when you clearly explain timing, leverage, capital behavior, and market cycles, you stop looking like someone who wants a transaction and start looking like someone who understands strategy. And strategy is what commercial owners value most, right after depreciation, and slightly before parking ratios. Now notice the structure of day 6 post. It's built around something very simple. 3 reasons CRE owners sell before spring. Why 3? Well, because 3 feels clear, organized, and intelligent. And it's short enough to read before someone's next Zoom call starts. This isn't random marketing, it's decision psychology. And look closely at the 3 points I've got here. We're not giving generic advice. We're teaching real commercial dynamics. Less competing inventory leads to stronger pricing tension. Scarcity still works, even in spreadsheets. Active 1031 and private capital are already placed. Now, money moves before headlines, it always has. More negotiating leverage before supply expands, because leverage is simply timing, wearing a financial suit. And this is the moment owners begin thinking, this person understands the market. And that thought is the beginning of trust. And once again, notice what we don't do. We don't push a meeting, we don't ask for a listing, we don't suddenly become enthusiastic in a way that feels somewhat suspicious. We simply say message timing, one word, private, low pressure, high signal, because sophisticated owners prefer discreet curiosity over public commitment. And this CTA, this call to action, respects that. But the real purpose of day 6 isn't about the post, it's positioning. By now, the owner has hopefully experienced you as thoughtful in email, intelligent on LinkedIn, calm on video, and personal in handwritten note, and now educational about the market. At this point, something important happens. You stop feeling like a broker, and you start feeling like their future trusted advisor. And that shift, quiet as it is where major commercial assignments begin. Now, the post itself might say something like this: 3 reasons CRE owners sell before spring. In commercial real estate, timing isn't just seasonal, it's strategic. And each year, many of the strongest outcomes happen before the spring inventory wave arrives. Less competing inventory leads to stronger pricing tension. With fewer assets on the market, serious buyers focus quickly, and competition can work in your favor instead of against you. Active 1031 and private capital is already placed. Many investors begin deploying capital early in the year, well before the broader market gets crowded. And more negotiating leverage before supply expands. As new listings enter in late spring, leverage can shift. Positioning ahead of that curve often creates better terms and cleaner execution. Of course, every property opportunity and ownership strategy is different. The key is simply knowing whether timing matters for your asset. If you'd like a confidential opinion of value and timing insight, just message me timing and I'll prepare it for you. No pressure, just clear market intelligence. And of course, I do graphics for everything. So we've created a graphic for this, giving you the less competing inventory, active capital, and more negotiating leverage all put together. Again, you can create anything you'd like, but this is the version that I did. Now we arrive at day 7, the final step in the Mardi Gras campaign, and the moment where everything we've done all week quietly, hopefully, comes together. Because day 7 is not about pressure, it's not about urgency, and it's definitely not about last chance, act now, written in capital letters and emotional instability. Day 7 is about something far more powerful in commercial real estate, timing and clarity. What's happened all week? Think about the journey the owners experienced over the past 7 days. They've seen your calm, intelligent email, a strategic LinkedIn insight, a respectful direct outreach, a confident video explanation, a personal handwritten note, and a clear educational post. Nothing loud, nothing pushy, nothing at all that's felt like a sales tactic. Just consistent evidence that you understand the market and think like an advisor. And by day 7, something subtle has changed. You're no longer introducing yourself. You're now someone that they would consider calling. And that shift is everything. So the message of the final email, what does it say? It acknowledges a simple truth. Market activity is beginning to accelerate. More listings are coming, more competition is forming, and the quiet negotiation window will not stay open forever. Not in a dramatic way, just in a factual, experienced owner kind of way. Because sophisticated investors don't need hype, they need calm reality. Now the core insight here is, or the key that we deliver, is windows of leverage are temporary, not gone tomorrow and not disappearing overnight, but quietly and steadily, shifting as the season moves forward. And the owners who benefit most each year are usually the ones who gain clarity early, before decisions become rushed or reactive. And that's the insight, simple, true, and useful. And that useful information is the most persuasive thing in commercial real estate. Now comes the offer. And notice how consistently we've been all week. We're not asking for a listing. We're not pushing a meeting. We're not applying pressure. We're simply offering a brief, confidential 10-minute strategy call. Short, private, intelligent, respectful of their time. Because serious owners don't want another presentation. They want clarity, quickly, in 10 minutes, so they can think. And this offer gives them exactly that. And the call to action remains beautifully calm. Schedule here if you have a link that allows them to schedule. That's it. No countdown timer, no automated funnel, no email that says spots are filling up fast. Just a doorway for the right owner at the right moment. What day 7 really is not the end of the campaign. It's the beginning of a real conversation. Because in commercial real estate, major decisions rarely happen during the marketing. They happen after. In quiet discussions, private meetings, and thoughtful analysis. And day 7 simply opens that door. So here is my email before the window shifts in the spring CRE market. Good afternoon. As Mardi Gras wraps up, the market begins to shift. In commercial real estate, this is the point in the calendar when activity quietly accelerates. More listings prepare to launch. More owners begin testing pricing, and buyers gain additional options as inventory builds towards spring. None of that is negative, but it does highlight something experienced owners already understand. Windows of negotiating leverage are temporary. Many of the strongest outcomes each year happen during the quieter periods just before the broad spring surge. When serious capital is already active, competition is still limited, and positioning can be more deliberate. Of course, selling isn't always the right move. For some owners, refinancing, repositioning, or simply holding with better information is a smarter strategy. The real advantage is clarity before the market gets loud. And that's why I'm offering a brief, confidential 10-minute strategy call for a small number of owners this month. We'll look at current value, buyer demand, and timing considerations. Nothing more complicated than clear intelligence that you can actually use. You can schedule your time here if you have a scheduling link. No pressure, no obligation, just thoughtful insight so you can decide what makes sense to your timeline. Best regards, Loren Keim. Clear strategy, quiet leveraging, and smart timing. So when you step back and look at the full week, this campaign was never really about Mardi Gras. It was about showing up early, communicating calm, intelligent, and building that quiet trust, and being remembered before the market gets loud. Because in commercial real estate, the agents who win the most meaningful assignments are rarely the loudest in the parade. They're the ones who were already walking beside the owner before the music even started. And that is how listings are actually won. Again, I am Loren Keim, your commercial real estate coach, and I would love to help you any way I possibly can. And by the way, If you do have referrals for anybody in Eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Delaware, my team at Century 21 Commercial is happy to help them any way we can. So again, Eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, reach out to us. And for those of you who need more advice on how to get started in commercial real estate, we do that as well. Have a great day.